Coach L, of course, was the Canes hoops coach until early this season. Last night at the Heat game, so your son Jay is a coach for the Clippers, and you're there last night. But the Heat honored you. I saw you up on the big screen, and you threw up the U, and you got a nice ovation from the crowd. That had to be a fun night for you last night.
No, it really was. Plus, I got a chance to visit with Jordan Miller, one of our UM players who was on the Final Four team, and I presented him with his Final Four rings. We had 2 rings, one from the NCAA and one from the University of Miami, and he hadn't gotten his because right after the Final Four season, he took off on his NBA journey. And so we hadn't seen him. He hadn't been back to Miami. So I had a chance to give him a hug, give him his rings, take some photos. It was a great visit. And, of course, my son Jay, he came home with my wife and I after the game and stayed at the house, and we had a nice visit with him.
And, Coach, when you see your ex-players, do y'all talk about basketball or life? Like, do you say, hey, you got to drop back better in the pick and rolls, or do you just talk about human stuff?
Well, we talked about his new contract. I don't know if you guys know, but he signed a 4-year deal with the Clippers for $8 million. And I text with his mom during the game. She was sending me pictures of me and Jordan when Jordan was at Miami. And I sent her some pictures of me with Jordan at the Heat game last night. So kind of a family affair. We stay in touch with a lot of our former players over the years.
Who do you stay in touch with most? I was going to ask you that. I want to talk about the game last night. I want to talk about the Heat a little bit, but who do you stay in touch with from your Canes era?
Probably Angel Rodriguez, who was, a local product, went to Kansas State, transferred back long before the portal became a thing, transferred back home for a very good reason. He wanted to be close enough to Puerto Rico so his mom could fly to Miami to watch him play and spend time with him. So reconnect with his family. And then he now lives in Miami during the off season. He's playing professional basketball in Puerto Rico, but he is married and he has 2 children, and he comes over and works out with our guys. Even during this season, he was playing pickup ball with the players. And so the NCAA rule allows you as a former player to work out or even practice with your team on an occasional basis. So that's what he would do.
I had no idea. That's kind of a cool rule.
Yeah, it's great.
That makes sense. What I got to ask you too, before we get into Heat stuff and college basketball, whatever you want to talk about. When you get home last night and Jay's with you, do you guys talk about the Heat Clippers game, or do you talk about anything but the game?
We don't talk about the game. We talk about what movies we're watching, what movies we like. What have you seen that's good? Because we're both movie fanatics. You guys know that? I love the movies. I watch the movies all the time.
And one more, Coach. Could you just walk around the Kaseya Center like a normal person? Because if people don't know, you're a very tall man and you're Jim Larrañaga. Do people talk to you constantly, or can you just walk around and enjoy the game?
Because everybody has a phone and the phone has a camera, everybody wants to take pictures or videos. So that what was very, very amusing to me, there were about a half a dozen students there just to my left. I sat right across from the Clippers bench on the wood. And so the students yelled to me. I went over and took pictures with them. And there was a Heat photographer there, a young gal named Christine. And when I was done, she said to me, can you take a picture with me? And I said, sure. What's your name? And she said, Christine. Then she said, what's yours? She wanted to take a picture with someone she didn't even know who I was.
That's funny. She knew everyone else wanted pictures with you. So
hey,
you
want a picture? I want a picture. Who the heck are you?
That's excellent. Solana took some video of you last night. Solana was there, for the Heat broadcast, and he sent us some video last night of you knocking down free throws after the game.
Yeah. One time, not this season, but the year before, one of my freshmen challenged me to a free throw contest. And I said, well, I'm very stiff. I've just been standing around. Let me get loose. And I did. And then he watched me make 39 in a row. And then he said, hey,
Wow.
no, the challenge is off. No more.
Were you always a good free throw shooter? I guess so.
Yeah. You know, it's funny when you learn the fundamentals at a young age, how the foundation is there and it stays with you. I started as an 8-year-old. And when I was 10, I competed in New York City, in the Bronx. And the competition was two things, making layups and making free throws. And I made 10 for 10 as a 10-year-old in a competition, moved on to the next round. I made 10 for 10 again. Eventually, I lost to the winner, but I shot a very high percentage. My team won the what was called the tunnel race. You lined up with your legs open, the first guy in line rolled the ball back between your legs, everybody's legs. The last guy in line picked it up and had to dribble in and make a layup, beating the other team. So one team was on the north end of the court, the other team was on the south end of the court, and whoever's 10 guys finished first, you won and moved on to the next round. And we won that championship. So I had a chance to compete against a lot of very good 10-year-olds, and almost every one of them was a Division I player when they turned 18.
Oh, wow. That's pretty wild.
That's
yeah.
cool.
Fundamentals,
Yeah.
Crowder. Got to know how to hit your free throws. Fundamentals. Let's talk. You heard us at the beginning of the show today talking about the Heat, and it feels like something's missing, and you were there last night, and I'm sure your allegiances were torn because you want your son to win, but also you have a long-standing relationship with the Heat. But it feels like something's missing. They're losing to teams that theoretically they should be beating, and it doesn't seem like they have as much fight or bite as we're used to from Miami Heat teams of the past. So what do you make of that? Sometimes, and you can probably make an analogy to this year's Canes basketball team. Sometimes it just doesn't happen.
I'm not making that analogy. No, that's not fair to anybody. No, but here, you know, like almost all sports, whether it's baseball, basketball, football, is cyclical. The same team rarely stays at the top for a long period of time. You know, the Celtics did it back when they had Bill Russell. The Lakers have had their run with Magic Johnson and Kareem and Pat Riley leading the way. And the Heat did it with Shaq and D. Wade, and then with LeBron, Chris Bosh, and D. Wade. But you go through cycles where someone else emerges. The San Antonio Spurs did it for all the time that Tim Duncan and David Robinson were together. So right now, I think that we're going through a cycle where we're not quite, as a Miami Heat organization, quite as deep and as talented as some of the other teams. And my first matchup last night, my son works with Zubac every day. He's worked with him. He flew to, where's Zubac from? Lithuania, to work him out in the summers. And that guy is a mountain of a man. He's competing against Khalil Ware, who's a youngster. He's much thinner. He doesn't weigh nearly as much. So it would be a typical night for a Zubac to win that battle. And that was key. The biggest thing right now is, hey, get healthy, get everybody playing well. And I think for the Heat, it's going to be a matter of, hey, we got to improve through the draft and through trades, because when Spo has guys like LeBron and D Wade and Bosh, they're in the championship. They're on a run. Right now, I think, you know, the talent level that's around the league is sitting in Cleveland, in Boston, in OKC, and in Denver. And maybe the Lakers, now that they've added Luka Doncic.
And coach, because one thing, football, basketball, everything, people talk about X's and O's and then Jimmys and Joes. Like you watched James Harden do what he did last night with SGA and Jason Tatum. Like, you can see that they're at a different level basketball wise. But out of those two bins, culture gets thrown in as well. We were speaking about this earlier. Like the culture, the combination of guys, like, how does culture work? Because Heat culture is a big phrase. They have T-shirts about it. You put a culture on your team, Is there a DNA that guys need? Like, how does culture combine with the coaching and also the talent?
Okay, so the first thing is my first goal as the head coach of the University of Miami, or when I was at George Mason and Bowling Green, was to establish a winning culture. And really what that meant is find winners, find assistant coaches who have the same vision I do and will work just as hard and be as committed to having a usually successful program through building through the right culture. And that means people. You got to get the right people. And when you have the right people and they buy into your vision, you have a chance for huge success. The problem comes in when not everybody is of that level of focus and commitment. And commitment, there's 4 levels of commitment: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. So someone in his own mind might be, I'm physically committed. I'm going to work really, really hard. But then you find mentally, they're not that tough mentally. And if you're not physically and mentally tough, or if you have issues emotionally where you're constantly getting frustrated and angry, you're blaming the refs, you're blaming the coach, we're not running the right plays or the right offense, you're blaming your teammates, I was open and you didn't get the ball. That is not a part of winning culture. Winning culture is no excuses. You don't make excuses, you don't complain, you get the job done no matter what the obstacles and challenges are in front of you. And right now with the Miami Heat, with someone who I'm not picking on Khalil Ware, but he's a rookie, and it's hard for him. He's used to playing against college players who he was more talented than, and now he's playing against men that are 5, 7, 10 years older than him, and he's got to try to figure out how to improve physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And spirit is about everything being about the team. We've all seen players we know of quite recently of players who, fought the system, fought the culture. That never works.
I say to this day, Zion Williamson can still be an NBA MVP. Crowder and Solana crush me for that take. He's put up 2 triple doubles in like the last 3 or 4 games. Are you with me, Coach? Could Zion Williamson be an NBA MVP one day?
Well, Hawk, that's the kind of question you have to ask. Is he even going to play in tomorrow's game?
Well, sure. That's concern.
He's
There's
played.
No
he's played in fewer games than he sat out. He has sat out more games than he's played in. You can't count. One of the most important ingredients in being successful is consistency. So if you're a coach and you're trying to make your game plan, the first thing you got to ask yourself was, who do I have that's available? And the most important ability is availability. This guy's a great player, but he's hurt. He's not playing tonight. So Zion, I think, is one of the great athletes of all time, but he's always hurt. He's always sitting on the sideline in street clothes. So I guess the answer is no.
It's funny because I was extrapolating that answer to yes. I'm like, oh, so he agrees with me.
As a Hall of Fame coach, like if you did coach Zion, because like you're saying, Hawk just said it. When he play, he can go get 25 any night he wants to. But the availability side, and then I make fun of him because I think he's overweight. I don't think, like you were talking about the 4 prongs of culture. Yeah. I don't think he has a couple of those prongs. As a coach, is that frustrating to see a player that talented that just can't put it together consistently?
Yeah, it's the weight issue is an issue for everyone in the country. Think about all the people that are overweight and how they've had to deal with it their whole lives. So I don't know if you guys know the author, Daniel Pink. He wrote a book called Drive, which is all about motivation. Have you guys ever heard of him?
No.
No, it's an absolutely fantastic book. So years ago, this is back when we won the ACC championship in 2013. I had 2 players that were overweight, Reggie Johnson and Kenny Kaji. I don't know if you guys remember them, but Reggie Johnson weighed like 320. And I asked him, I talked to him, I said, Reggie, what's your goal in basketball? He said, well, I want to play in the NBA. I said, Reggie, there's a 24-second clock. So at 320, I just don't think you're going to be able to get up and down the court for 82 games. You need to lose weight. So I called Daniel Pink, the author of Drive. I said, how can I help Reggie Johnson? And you know what he said? Good luck. Because he said motivation is basically intrinsic. It's not you motivating him, yelling at him, making him, you watching his diet, weighing him in every day. I had a player named Jai Lewis. He led us to the Final Four at George Mason. When in the summertime, I said to him, Jai, you got to get in better shape. You weigh 282 pounds. You're only 6'5" and a half. You got to lose the weight. I'm going to give you, I'm going on the road for 2 weeks. When I get back, I want you down to 275. And he said, Coach, I'll do it. I came back 2 weeks from a great road trip. I was recruiting like crazy, getting involved with some really good players. I'm very excited. I get back. I said, come on, Jai, I'm going to weigh you. He weighed 293. He gained 11 pounds. So, so much of culture is getting players who are committed to all four levels, that their drive is intrinsic. It's within them, their competitive drive, their competitive spirit. And that's why, like our Final Four team, Jordan Miller and Isaiah Wong were our leaders. They never complained. They never missed a practice. Isaiah Wong sprained his ankle. He went into the training room, had it wrapped in tape, came right back out and finished practice. He wasn't going to miss. And he set the example for the other players. Look at, if our best player, the ACC Player of the Year, is doing this, look, I'm not going to let him down. He's my guy. And then Jordan Miller was the same way. That's why both those guys got drafted. We referred to those two players in my coaching staff meetings as everyday players. They don't just show up for games. They're there every day. They're gym rats. They're in the gym. I don't know if you guys would know the name Kevin Eastman. And he was an assistant coach for the Celtics, and he worked with Doc Rivers for forever. And he came and spoke to my team, and he said, the great players do what is unrequired. I don't even know if that's a word. Required, everybody knows what required is. Hey, yeah, you got to do this. But he said the great players do all the things that are unrequired. They get in the gym and they work on things that no one else is doing. And that's what the difference is. You don't do, if you want to be great, you don't do what the ordinary player does. To be extraordinary, you got to do the things that are extraordinary, that are unrequired. Does that make sense?
Yes, very much so. I've taken none of that to heart over the course of my life, and will continue not to. I'll do the bare minimum required, and at some point they'll jettison me from this show that's been so cushy for so long for me. Jim Larrañaga, this is why we have him on every week. He's fascinating. And before we let you go, you are a big movie buff. Today happens to be National Popcorn Lovers Day. Could you watch a movie without popcorn? Would you go to the theater and not get popcorn?
If I go to the theater, or if I go to any sporting event, like last night, I had one of those big barrels, the tubs of popcorn. And if I go to the movies, same thing, I get popcorn right away. But at home, I eat popcorn once in a while, not every night.
You do the microwave popcorn?
Yeah, microwave. I don't do it. My wife does it. I don't know how to run a
out of the microwave bag, or do you transfer it from a bag into some sort of container?
Oh, no. Again, I don't do that. But my wife would never let me eat out of a bag. She microwaves it. She puts it and serves it to me with a drink. And she doesn't charge much for that.
That Miami Heat popcorn happens to be good. They have very good popcorn at the Kaseya Center.
It is very good.
Yeah. All right, Jim Larrañaga, we love talking to you, and he's going to join us every Thursday, and we'll continue to get some pearls of wisdom and talk nonsense as well. We appreciate the time, Coach.
Thanks, fellas. Always enjoy it.